Namaste to all of you. We are going to start this Think session. Our Think is an independent organization founded with an intention to contribute to civilization rejuvenation by promoting critical thinking in the society, drawing on spiritual, cultural, social, political, and economic thought of Bharatavarsha. Think will endeavor to promote analytical reflection at local, national, and international levels. Think will endeavor to bring together important constituents of the society, such as political leaders, policy makers, academicians, journalists, religious leaders, and civil society activists to suggest recommendations to address issues confronting the nation as well as the international community. This is how our Think organization will function. So today, one of the key important topic we have taken, the topic is everybody know, that is how this social media is social media setting the political and the national narrative of India. This is going to be addressed by one of the key person and a great personality in front of us, Sri Vinit Goenka. So I will ask Mr. Subhash kindly introduce Vinit Goenka to the participants and to this session. Subhash sir. Subhash sir, please unmute your phone, sir.
Thank you, Murthy garu. I have the privilege of introducing Sri Vinit Goenka. Sri Vinit Goenka is a politician associated with the Bharatiya Janata Party for the past 25 years. He is the national co-convener of IT Cell BJP. He is a politician with a firm commitment to the nation, passionate about tapping technology to change the way India works and working towards making India data and knowledge sovereign. He has proven expertise in various fields: data sovereignty, information technology, transportation, and infrastructure, apart from agriculture. His nationalist credo keeps him occupied in various capacities in the government of India. He is a member of the Governing Council of CRIS, that is the Center for Railway Information System, an organization functioning under the aegis of the Ministry of Railways, Government of India. He was appointed a member of the IT task force in the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways and Shipping. As the Secretary of Center for Knowledge Sovereignty, a think tank working in the space of data security, data sovereignty, data privacy, cyber security 2030, and knowledge sovereignty, with a special focus on defense, education, and information technology sectors, he has been instrumental in creating awareness in the country as well as globally on these important issues. He has co-authored a book, Data Sovereignty, The Pursuit of Supremacy, the first ever book on data localization and digital colonization from the Indian perspective. We are privileged to have his presence today amongst us. Thank you, Murthy garu. Over to you.
Thank you, Subhash. Thank you. So before we start this session, I would like to introduce the topic a little bit about that. The advent of social media has fundamentally altered the political process in India as well as in various parts of the world. In a way, the emergence of social media did have positive benefits in the political realm. Earlier, much of the political discourse was controlled by a few newspapers or television channels, which were owned by a few individuals. As a consequence, any idea of political philosophy that did not meet the needs of the few individuals found it very difficult to find space in the regular media. The advent of social media has fundamentally altered this dynamic. Many political philosophies, ideologies, and agendas that had long history but were struggling to make an impact used the social media platforms as launch pads to reach out the people. Even in India, the advent of social media enabled many non-left ideas to find space in the public domain. However, there are many challenges with the social media and the role it is playing today in politics and social society at large. The fact that anyone and everyone can publish their views and propagate their ideas while being a good thing is also proving to be a challenge. And of course, some of them there are few challenges that are many opinions without any basis are being communicated as facts. It has become easy not only to incite population to violence, but also attribute violence to innocent people or groups by morphing photographs and videos. While anonymity on social media is supposed to facilitate easy expression of views, it is also being used extensively to plant violent ideas and communicate falsehood or blatant lies. There are concerns that social media is being used by foreign powers to disrupt democratic process in many countries. There is an opinion in the United States that Russia, through selective leaks and social media campaigns, has fundamentally impacted the election process. Similarly, there are views in United Kingdom that external elements had used social media to impact Brexit referendum process. Unlike earlier times, external powers are finding it very easy interfere and mold public opinion in other countries. As the world's largest democracy, we in India must study these experiences and protect our democratic process. So given these opportunities and challenges, it is important for us to evaluate the role of social media in our political process. Such an exercise will help us to be better equipped to deploy social media for the larger good of the country. To help us in this process, we have an exceptionally good scholar, Sri Vinit Goenka-ji, who has been working on these issues for quite some time. We welcome Sri Goenka-ji. Kindly address this task is the present scenario in the international, how it has been affecting the society as well as the countries in a different dimensions. Thank you, sir. Most welcome. Our think is welcoming you to address on this, sir.
Thank you very much, Murthy, and everybody who is attending this training program. It is indeed a very big honor for me to come and speak in front of all of the seniors whom I can see on the screen. How much can I speak for 15 minutes? How much time do I have?
Sure,
yeah. So let me just tell you about social media and how it is happened. So we'll have to go for last 10-20,000 years to understand social media in next 30 seconds. Communication has been a added advantage to human beings over other animals. And since we started understanding sign language, somebody did some sign and any other person understood that. That gave us an upper edge over other communities, other animals on the planet. Then came the voice communication where we started communicating to each other and we passed the knowledge to each other. Subsequently, print came in and print also communicated, helped us to continue communicate and collaborate the knowledge. In the last 2 centuries, we saw other few technologies coming up. It may be radio, it may be television which came up and which helped people to communicate. In the last 2 decades, the advent of social media made it possible to communicate at fast speed, and a scale which cannot be prescribed or understood by somebody who is no more in this era. Somebody who was there in 1990 may not understand what is the scale which social media can do it. So you've seen that the way communication has increased in the last 20-25 years, it is enormous. What is one fundamental difference which we should understand about social media vis-a-vis any other media which is available? In the good old days or not so good old days, that I leave it to your judgment, the communication is to be one to many. What does it mean by one to many? A leader of a political party, head of an organization would talk to one reporter, one journalist, one anchor. And in turn, that journalist, that anchor, that media person would list down what he has understood, what he wants to communicate, and the next day you would read that in the newspaper. Fala leader said so and so. Now the leader would have said something which this anchor would not have understood or would have decided not to write, then you would not read that. Or the anchor or the newspaper journalist may choose not to write the words in the exact format, you cannot help. So it was one to many communication. एक आदमी बोलेगा, दूसरा सुनेगा और सभी को बताएगा. One person will listen, then write or speak, and then all the citizens of this country, all the readers would understand. There was a couple of challenges in that. One challenge was the person who is understanding this communication from the leader or the speaker may not be that talented like a speaker. He may zip the thought. Number two, he may put in his own thought process, his own ideology in that. And probably what you get in front of you may not be what exactly the person who wanted to communicate spoke. Social media gave voice to everybody, and it is now many to many. Like the way I'm talking to you, without a mediator, without an interpreter, without somebody who will try to understand from me and then to communicate you. That advantage we have in social media, where nobody can actually hijack you, nobody can put words in your mouth or write on your behalf. You write to the people, you speak to the people, you present to the people as you want to do it. So this became many to many, and there was an element of freedom, there was an element of truth which came in this. And how can be social media used? And I'll give you certain examples which I did in my life, which social media helped. Then we will go to the topic which is narrative setting. Just simple thing, it can be used for emergencies. I have seen people putting on social media, they need blood, they need certain help, and people have rushed to help that. I am part of the railways as a governing council member of CRIS. We have put in a system where you can write to us, tweet, Facebook or other complaints, grievances through that. The grievances which railways never used to address for weeks and months, now we address that in minutes. While you're traveling, you write the grievances, we would try to solve the grievances. Every day we get more than 7,000 grievances. We address more than 6,000 which are solvable there and there itself while you're traveling. Maybe 1,000 grievances which may not be addressed because it requires either budgetary provision or they may not be solved when you are traveling that. Now, social media is being used as a mechanism of grievances handling. It can be also used as an information dissemination tool. We have seen that when we had the challenges of cyclone, metallurgy department used this as to be information dissemination tool. And we also have seen this in this COVID period when we are in lockdown. It is used as business and also community to come together. Families have come together. I am a part of a WhatsApp group which is 4 generations of our family. Many of them I had not met earlier, but because of the social media, we could meet to each other, we know each other, and now we meet when we go to each other's place. So these are the advantages we have seen. But when I received a letter, when I received an email from Murthy ji that he wants to discuss, and the topic which is, does social media set national and political narrative? Answer is yes. How does it does? Communication, earlier there used to be 2 parts of communication, a truth or a false. But with the advent of social media, there are 2 more factors which are being added to this communication. Now there is truth, there is false, there is half truth, and there is also deemed truth. What do you mean by truth? You know it. What do you mean by false? You all know it. Let me speak about the 2 other part, half truth and what is called as deemed truth. Half truth, where you actually speak a part of a communication which is truth, but you choose not to speak the reality when the things are there. So that half truth, and it can create impressions, it can create narrative. And then we have seen how it can lead to various problems. It can also lead to disharmony between communities, religions, sections, all that kind of thing can be done. And deemed truth. Social media brings one challenge along with that, and that challenge is the person who is writing, speaking, or forwarding the message may believe that this is truth, that it is a deemed truth. He may not be sure, but yet he may choose to forward or share that information. He may create that information which he is believing that is true, and in fact it may not be. So there is an element of truth, false, semi-truth, and of deemed truth. Does it set narrative? Answer is yes. Can it do that? Can it challenge the social fabric of the society? Can it challenge the political fabric of the society? Answer is true. We have seen one incident, and I will not like to shy away from that incident of 2002. 2002 was a bad thing which happened in the history of India, where in Gujarat, many of my brothers, whether they are from A community or B community, both lost their life. But see, even after 18 years of that incident, if you go and check the social media, some individuals have chosen to write half truth about 2000, and they would talk about one community suffering in the hands of another. But if you see the facts, what are the real facts? The fact is a train was traveling with a section of A community people. Those people were burnt alive in the train. So as a reaction, they reacted and B community was hampered. Now, nobody talks about the sufferings of A community, but they talk about the suffering of B community. That creates disharmony. And this is done with the intent to create disharmony between two communities, with an intent to insult the leadership of the ruling party. These kind of narratives can be driven, yes. And can they haunt people? Answer is yes. We also have seen how false narrative can be created in many other parts. There can be an incidents where incidents can be shown, blown up. Old incidents can be brought in for front of everybody and be shared with people as if it is a new incident. Misquotes can be done. We saw a diplomat from Pakistan speaking UN Assembly, showing a photograph as to be photograph of a suffering citizen of Kashmir. And later on, it was found that it was not from Kashmir, it was from some other country. And the poor diplomat representing Pakistan did a shoddy job by misquoting herself. Now, these kind of activities are deliberately done so that there can be confusion created in the mind of the society. Can good schemes, good work of the government be challenged by narrative? Answer is yes. Can there be a society or a section of people who may deliberately create unhappiness in the people? My understanding is true. I can go in further and give you more examples. What happened? We have seen in the past, couple of people came together in Syria and challenged the government which was there. In no time, people came down on the streets and they fought for themselves. And in 2 weeks' time, the government there collapsed. We have also seen that in Egypt. We have seen many other places. Now, can this happen everywhere? Social media has a power, and the power is common man can speak. But if you put one element, which we all heard in Mahabharata, the element of half-truth. We all know the famous incidents where Dronacharya is listening, Yudhishthira is speaking. Yudhishthira is born to speak only truth, and Dronacharya, if he listens to a particular words or news, he may not be able to deliver his ability to fight the war. Dronacharya, Yudhishthira speaks Aswathama, and then in between there is a lot of noise which is created. This noise creates a camouflage where the original words of Yudhishthira does not go to the ears of Dronacharya. Now, this is not an act done by Yudhishthira. This is an act done by other elements, other stakeholders, the environment around him. And what happens is the communication is disturbed. The original information which was supposed to go out is not going out. The truth gets lost in the noise being created. Many times in social media, the truth gets lost. I see always many political parties, many political leaders of a stature talking about things which are not substantial. Let me give you an example. In my country, we had a couple of challenges related to one incident. If you correct that incident, a couple of challenges will be done. I saw my grandmother cooking on wood, and subsequently I also saw thousands, lakhs and crores of mothers, women in this country suffering because they had to go and collect wood so that they can lit the fire for their food. There were a couple of challenges. When you go to collect wood, you may have natural challenges like snake biting, other challenges which happens when you are alone in the jungle. There is a suffering. And once you bring the wood and burn the wood, there are medical issues like smoke and all the other things which will impact the person who's cooking the food. And as a society, as a country, we also face challenge of carbon footprints. This was there for many, many decades. People were trying. I don't want to blame the earlier governments that they never did it. But one excellent part happened, and that excellent part was the Ujjwala Yojana, where I think it was the first time in this country where a prime minister thought that I should first address the lowest or the last person in the value chain. And so he went to the house owner, the housekeeper or the housemaker, whom you call as Amma or sister or whatever, who cooks the food. And 8 crore gas cylinders were given to this society who never had it. What is the benefit? One, she saves time in collecting the wood. She does not get suffered. She's not suffering because the smoke is not coming. Third, as a country, we have reduced carbon footprint. Now, this time which is saved, if every lady saves 3 to 4 hours, multiplied by 8 crore women, we are saving almost every day 24 crore man hours. You all are sharp people listening to me right now. It brings to table almost around 3 crore man days per day, which is 30 million man days. You decide what will be the cost of man days. you are all talented, and how much money we have saved as a country or what we have done. Now, in place of talking this and trying to tell the other users, other people who can take benefit of this scheme, many people may choose to talk about things which are not relevant and become a hurdle of dissemination of information. There are many other things which we could talk on social media, but there are elements who try to create some kind of dispute between you. I come from Mumbai. My birth is from Mumbai. I've born and brought up. There is a place in Mumbai called as RA Colony. We all suffered in Mumbai because local traffic systems are not very good, and there was a long pending demand for decades and decades about metro system, so that the metros can go into the areas where railways don't go, people don't have to travel on the road. There is a small area called as RA Colony where the depot was to be made. Yes, it is true that if the depot was to be made, few thousand, maybe around 4 or 5,000 or 8,000, I don't exactly remember the number of the trees which you can see in the site, had to be shifted, replanted somewhere else so that the car shed can be made. There was agitation. Those people who were doing agitation, they were against my philosophy, against my political thinking, but they were good people. I know all of them because I've been seeing them from childhood. None of them is anti-national, none of them is anti-social. They're good people. But when the agitation was going on social media, they started using words which are abusive, not concurrent with the parliamentary democracy, not which you and I would like to read in front of our daughters or wife or mother. And so I had a query. Why are these people? They can oppose, but why are they using these kind of words? So I had an opportunity to talk to a couple of those activists. I said, you are good people. You may not like our decisions. You may like to oppose. Why are you using these words? And they said, no, we are not using these words. See, this is our tweets which we have written against you. I said, it is very good. If you're writing this tweet, you are most welcome. But who has written this tweet? Other tweets. And they had no answer. They said, very common man, citizens have written it. And I also believe it. And those tweets were in the local language Marathi. Now, please understand, when it is written in local language Marathi, I would feel that somebody has written it. Time went on. In 2019, I was a part of a roundtable which was organized in Jodhpur hostel of Army. Lieutenant General Bhatia had invited me to that discussion. I was there. And I also had, along with me, Maharashtra DIG, Mr. Brijesh Singh, an IPS officer. And he was talking about the challenges which he is facing. And coincidentally, he quoted the same problem of RA Colony. And he said, the tweets are coming from Pakistan in Marathi. Now, this is a new challenge which you would see from social media. You may not know who is the author. Tomorrow, I can create a fake account in the name of Mr. Murthy and write on his behalf. And everybody else who loves him, believes him, follows him, may think that he is writing those words without verifying whether he has actually written it. And poor gentleman may not be able to deny that, because by the time people know that he has not spoken, it was a fake handle which was propagating that information, he would have lost his credibility. So this new challenge has come with social media, that narratives can be set not only by the people who are writing it, but also by state actors. And those state actors may be those state people who may not like you in perpetuity, who may have difference of opinion with you in perpetuity. And that we have seen the case of Aragon. So where I used social media to disseminate good information about the government and the policy choices, so that my poor sister can take advantage of that. She can go and get one gas connection, or she can go and get the LED connection, or can raise grievances about railway. We use it for that purpose. There may be departments in government which talk about information. In the COVID time, you saw social media was the best used by the government. There may be people who may dislike you, may write words which are inappropriate. Their feelings are not bad. They're not bad people, but they don't know what are the words to be used and what are the words which may not be used in communication. There may be people who are not part of your group. They may camouflage that they are part of your group. They may camouflage that they are citizens like you and me of this country, and yet do it. So these are the challenges which I think it is. Is the world changed? Answer is yes. Earlier, what used to happen in Guntur? Guntur people used to think, they used to feel it. What used to happen in Mumbai? They would do it. As a state, then Tamil Nadu would talk about it, Maharashtra would talk about it. As a nation, then the country would think about it. But now with social media, you may see people who don't stay in this country, but love this country, and they're outside the country. Maybe they have gone for a job. Maybe their parents were from this country. They may be PIO, person with Indian origin. They love it. They may suggest. So those things are good. They may also show people good things about India. But there may be other people who have never come to India. They are part of the state mechanism of our adversary countries. They may be part of an organization which may not like your civilization, which may not like our religion. There may be individual raw elements. For fun's sake, they may do problems, and social media may create this kind of issue. What are the solutions to this? And I thought, if you have called me to talk about this particular serious matter, there has to be a solution. Recently, we saw one more thing, and before I go to the solution part, let me tell you one fight which I'm fighting every Sunday. And if you all get a chance, please do attend. Every Sunday we discuss this, and some senior person come. We had Lieutenant General Hooda who came and talked about it. Lieutenant General, Major General Kochar came. We had Mohan Das Pai who came and talked about this. ISKCON Vice President also came and discussed about it. The issue is, in good old days, there used to be a editor, there is to be a journalist who's to write and own the story. They would have the sense of writing and also owning what they have written. And they would fear that their image, their character will be damaged if they write something which is not right. Newspapers would generally, or media companies would generally take advertisements, but while collecting revenues of advertisements, they not only followed Indian laws, but also followed morals. There may be many things which were legal, but I know newspapers and television channels which have denied advertisements, saying, even if it is legal, I don't want to collect this, I don't want to show this on my media because it is immoral. I would not like my daughter, my son to read this or hear this. See this, that kind of morality was there. Those newspapers may not be subscribed to my philosophy, they may be against my philosophy, but they had that moral values. Now we have seen a challenge. There is this gentleman called as Panun. He is a declared terrorist by Home Ministry. He is a part of an organization, SFJ, which has also been banned by Government of India. He wants to break India, create Khalistan. He tweets. He writes on Twitter. Well, when he writes on Twitter, there may be debate. For one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter. So there can be a debate. Some people may say, what, Vineet, if he writes, why are you objecting? So that, leaving that debate, but if he writes and Twitter collects advertisement money from him to propagate and publicize what he has written, then that is also a challenge. In earlier days, reporters, journalists would write what they have seen. It would not be influenced by advertisement money. It was not being propagated by the greed of the companies to propagate this. We have seen in the case of Twitter, where they deliberately, willfully collected blood money from this terrorist organization as promotional charges to promote what they wanted to write against the country. So this also is a part of the narrative setting. There are individuals, there are organizations which are not part of our country, which do not get impacted because of our civilization, our upbringing, our benefits. For their petty greeds, they would act against us, act against the humanity. When people die, it's not that Indians will die. It is humanity which will die. And social media companies choose to take money. Many of my friends have filed police complaint against Twitter. Many of them have filed court cases. In fact, High Court of Bombay has taken this up. There were 3 hearings and Twitter is still to give an answer to them. So this kind of things then tells me that individuals may have bias. Organizations may have their own ideology and their own thinking. States may fight. State mechanisms may have their motives, and this is a war. Now we are in an age where we may see reduction of the use of traditional weapons like guns. They have weaponized data. We will see data is being used against us for their own ulterior motive. Be it be economical motive, be it be social motive, religious motive, or strategic motive. What is the solution? Solutions are very simple. There should be checks and balances. And what are the checks and balances? Number one, which through your medium, through your August gathering, which is here, I would like to propose that there should be KYC of every account which has been created. Like you have a KYC of telephone. Earlier days, anybody would take a mobile phone, threaten another person, create anti-social environment and run away. But with KYC being introduced, now you know who has the mobile phone, who owns that SIM card. Yes, there may be incidences where false owners can have that SIM card and they can create problem, but that number will be very less. It will be deterrent. So I think one element we should introduce is KYC of all these accounts which are. Number two, which is very important as a country, is data. Your data can be used to generate psychological imprints. We have seen in the case of Cambridge Analytica, where a political party wanted to understand what is the pattern of voting. So we should have data sovereignty. The data should not go outside the political boundaries of India. Indian data should reside within India, and LEAs, law enforcement agencies, should have access to that. So that in the case, if there is a crime, if there is a case where it is against the state, it can be analyzed, it can be forensic, can be run over that. Number three, these companies have capitalized in the tunes of billions. They earn revenues in millions, but they don't pay taxes to us. They generate revenues on the basis of their transaction and the discussion which happens on their platform in this country. They also collect revenue from citizens who reside in the country, and they collect taxes, they collect revenues from the citizens who are outside of some work. While they are addressing our market, generating revenue for themselves, bottom line and top line both, they're not participating in the upliftment of this country. There should be taxation mechanism where they should be taxed. These three debates cannot be purely taken at a political level and so that it can go into the parliament and immediately parliament can pass a bill if all the political party agree. This is something very serious which should go into the parliament of people. It should be discussed at the larger level, and I thought, who other than you all people who are august and learned, so sensible people, should discuss this. We can all write on our medias. We can all tell our elected representatives. If a small grocery shop owner, a tailor, a vessel seller, or a car renty guy, he has been taxed if he crosses X number of turnover a year. Why are we not taxing the social media companies? If you and I are supposed to keep our data of income tax and other papers for a couple of years, why are we not asking social media companies? And see, this is coming from somebody who belongs to the ruling party. But as this is a matter of a public discourse, because tomorrow if you try to impose this unilaterally, there can be a challenge of being labeled as to be trying to control the social media. So to balance that, I think this has to be discussed in the public first, then in the parliament. I would like to thank Mr. Murthy and everybody who is present here to listen to me. What a well spent evening of Monday, where I could talk to some talented people like you, my ideas, my thoughts, and my reading about the challenges of social media. I would like to thank you all once again for giving me this opportunity. Bharat Mata ki Jai.
Thank you very much, Vinit Goenka. I would like to know regarding the status of the public interest litigation that you have filed last year in the Supreme Court regarding this impact and its influence of the legal proceedings of the social media. Consequently, I don't have any information over that. If you can please.
So Supreme Court is yet to hear that particular petition where we have asked that action should be taken against Twitter for taking blood money from this terrorist organization. And in that, I have put a couple of requests, which are there in public domain. You can always see my social media, see that whatever pleas are there. But like I have filed, there is another gentleman, Gopal Zaveri, who has filed it in Mumbai, where he has got one step ahead, where it has gone to the court. The court has discussed. There is one more senior lady from Delhi who has filed it in Delhi High Court. There is some gentleman who has filed it in other courts also. There are FIRs across the country which has been filed. So the investigation is going on. I hope it gets over. Now, if you ask me why it is taking time, so courts cannot be told that please listen, you cannot day to day. They are a different arm of the democracy, which functions of their own speed and their own wisdom. In the case of police complaints, I'd like to share one thing which has happened. There was an FIR being filed in Tinsukia district of Assam against their malicious intent of this Twitter by some gentleman called as Dikshit Ajarika, if I'm pronouncing the name properly. And Twitter has gone to Guwahati High Court, quoting that as Bombay High Court is listening to a petition, this should be quashed. In Mumbai, Twitter went to Bombay High Court and said, okay, as there is an FIR been filed in Tinsukia, we should quash the PI. These are the people who earn millions of dollars because of you all, we all. And they use this money to appoint talented lawyer firms, which go and try to play with the loopholes of the legality. Now, luckily, this Dikshit Hazarika happens to know me, and also that Gopal Zaveri happens to know me, and the lady who was filed in Delhi also happens to know me. So they had some communication. Had they not known each other, they could have made fool of both the courts. The Guwahati High Court have believed them and probably would have given something which is different. So I feel we all as citizens, we have our duty. We should question. And I also saw day before yesterday itself, on the Sunday itself, a deliberation which happened where a young girl from Guwahati displayed what was written by Twitter India's one of the senior employees, policy, Miss Mahima Kaul. And the words which this lady Mahima Kaul, which happens to be Twitter's one of the key representatives, were very, very derogatory. When I read it, it was so hateful and shameful, which I would not like to read in front of my family. She writes that. And then she becomes part of the Twitter policy team. My personal belief is that if you have inhibitions, if you have preconceived notion about the political system, if you have a preconceived notion about democracy, you may not be delivering your services honestly. It can impact your thinking process, and which I've seen in Twitter for last couple of years, where you see it deliberately, there is a targeting of one particular religion, targeting of one particular thought process, political thought process, which has been done. And I believe that this is because this lady who heads the policy, and what is the lie they propagate? She goes and tries to represent the Joint Parliamentary Committee when it was informed to Anurag Thakur as representative of Twitter. And then Twitter goes to court and denies that they are part of the Twitter Inc. and she is an employee of the Twitter Inc. So these kind of false activities, they can do it because they have money. So these challenges will go on. These are legal hurdles. You and I may not be able to answer it because we all are learning in the process.
It is a process that will go. It takes some more time to get out of this. Anyway, sir, thank you very much. Before we start the interaction, I would like to request the participants kindly switch on their video and be apt to this subject, relevant to this subject. Please keep your questions or sessions according to this current situation of this topic, sir. I will call Sri Narayana Dutt. Please ask Sri Narayana Dutt.
Namaste ji.
Namaste. Please.
Namaste. So actually regarding the topic, the situation that I am facing is whatever that awareness, whatever it may be, we are trying to bring to the notice of the public. It is not going that much faster into the public. So one example I want to share you regarding the issue which is related to the corona, which is taking part nowadays. So the issue here is, so during this corona outbreak, what so many China companies involved into the Indian market, they started to brainwash the doctors' brains, stating that if you want to keep your hospital be away from the infections, you have to purchase this machine, like that. They started to create a fear complex. So what happening, every hospital is supposed to spend not less than 8 lakh rupees all of a sudden. So by spending 8 lakh all of a sudden, this burden has to be shared on the, has to be put on the
patients.
So all of a sudden, in some areas, the consultation fees shoot up to 1,500 rupees. Only consultation fees, I'm telling you. So what happens during this particular issue, during the course of time, what happens, patient starts to postpone the medical issues. So for example, of small headache, why should I pay 1,000 rupees for consultation fees and go for a hospital? So like that, they start to postpone the medical issues. So which results, which also include the corona symptoms. So if we leave the situation like this, India becomes more corona hub. So the major threat to the nation is majority, up to 90% of these companies are China manufactured companies. These equipment manufacturing companies. So at that particular time, what happens? India becomes a puppet inside in the hands of China. If China asks to India to sit, we have to sit. If China asks to stand, we have to stand. So for this thing particularly, the majority thing is in Andhra Pradesh, there is Visakhapatnam area is there. That is medical equipment manufacturing hub. As a war basis, the Indian government has to put a notice, especially this is taking a part in the fields of the majority in the field of dentistry by telling that you dentists are prone for the infection because you are working nearer to the mouths of the people. So that there is one organization named Federation Dental International, which covers entire dentistry of the globe. So Indian government has to ask the Federation Dental International to facilitate all the to insist all the companies to start manufacturing of medical equipments in the Visakhapatnam, so that the cost will be coming to down on the patients. So next thing is there is no dental insurance for the people in India. So immediately the dental insurance also to start to facilitate to cut this particular lobby which is taking part in India. So otherwise, if we don't focus on these particular medical instruments, Hawala, hub, whatever you may think, it is going just like virally in the medical field. I try to create so many awareness, so much of awareness, and I contacted so many media people. They are not at all focusing on this issue. If we fail this, India, one particular point of time, India becomes a puppet in the hands of China. Please take a drastic and severe action against this particular lobby of force doctors to purchase missionaries in India. Please, I am asking you.
You rightly said, fear is sometimes created by interested parties and greed, and those fear may lead you to spend money for their narratives. And one of the narrative is this creating this kind of psychosis, be it medical equipment, or where you see one particular organization in India which came out with certain medicines or certain solutions for various diseases. They may discredit that, and the same medicine or the same while is being proposed by some other foreign organization, they may say that is good. So these kind of narratives have been created. We all have to come and fight together. And you rightly said it should be brought into notice of the government. I would also request somebody whom I know in the senior in the government to understand this particular part and take actions against this. One good thing which you have done, what I'll tell you, which everybody should do, is to keep your thinking on. When you're reading something, you have to understand whether those people who are trying to write these kind of things have some ulterior motive. Because if government wants to give a directive, they will never give it like this. There would be directions which come from the health ministry, and you have seen that will be done always on the PIB sites. So if you really want to know what the government is doing, you should always visit PIB site and only listen to the spokesperson who are designated for that particular purpose, and not anybody and everybody on the earth.
Hello.
Yeah. Mr. Murthy, you have kept yourself mute. You'll have to unmute.
Unmute.
Please speak on.
Okay. Murthy, thank you for this opportunity. Actually, you were on mute so far, so nobody could listen to what you said.
Please go on your question.
Thank you. Yeah. Vinit ji, Siva Makutam here. Namaskar. How are
Namaste,
you doing?
Shivaji. I'm good, sir. I'm good.
So glad to meet you. Thanks to Think Guntur, we got this opportunity to actually meet you and listen to you. I think thank you so much for your time. A couple of things I would just like to remind our discussion where you actually mentioned me to file a case about Twitter. Definitely, I am for that. In fact, I have been busy with all our updates on the state committee, so I couldn't work on that so far. But I would request you to connect me to the Pune or Maharashtra contact that you mentioned to me. I would definitely do that, sir. That is the first point. The second one, you might have heard about this Facebook Congress talking about, talking against on Facebook. So just like we are actually opposing Twitter, maybe, I don't know if it is related to your efforts, it is strange that Congress is talking against Facebook. I don't know if this is related. Maybe you can throw some light on that for us. That is the
No,
second.
basically they have leveled some charges against Facebook, and I think it will be appropriate for Facebook representatives to come out in the public and speak about it. But yes, one thing which when the Facebook representatives come and speak, I also have one question for them: is that why they banned or stopped or they restricted thousands of right-winger cards which were there? One is that question to them.
Yeah.
Number two is that one question which Mr. Rahul Gandhi has to answer to this country as a large is, was there some relationship with Cambridge Analytica and them? Now, this is not an appropriate forum to discuss this particular part, but probably he should have discussed more things. And these kind of things, when they discuss, they show their shortness, they show their lack of leadership in the public domain. Yes, I would have been happy had he challenged on some policy issues. He wanted to discuss on some governance issue. And as an opposition, people should should counter the ruling party. There is nothing wrong in a democracy, but they should talk something which will help the citizens. And probably that guilt feeling of engaging with Cambridge Analytica made them to come out with this kind of thing. In the last few years, what I saw, especially Mr. Gandhi doing is creating doubt about all the institutions of democracy, be it the Supreme Court, they said judges are auditing. Then whether it is AVM and election commissioner, they has doubts. They had doubts in police. They had doubt on Indian military when the Indian army did some action on the western border. So they have doubt on every element which is pillar of this thing. And now they have started doubting organization. See, I have not doubted Twitter, Shiva. I have evidence and which I submitted to the NCCC. If you see, I submitted my letter to Lieutenant General Pant, to the head of National Cyber Coordination Center. Got it stamped. Waited for 6 months, and then I followed the procedure by going to court. And all these activists who have filed against them. And I'm a part of Bharatiya Janata Party. I could have gone to my minister, and my minister had been neighboring. They could have taken unilateral discussion. But they thought he should go through the process. If Mr. Gandhi feels that there is something wrong, he has all the right to go and speak in the parliament. Unfortunately, he chooses not to attend the session when the session is on. What he does is he skips that and he goes on vacations exactly when the Indian parliament is in discussion. So my request to him through somebody who is his friend or somebody who been advising is, whatever decisions you want to, whatever discussion you want to do, whether they are rightful, wrong, I don't know. Whether they are policy-wise or a transactional discussion, do that. But for that, you'll have to come to parliament, attend parliamentary sessions. And they can always do that. By creating ruckus in the discussion, he's not solving his problem. He's facing his own personal challenges in the party, and probably he's trying to cover them up. God bless him.
Thank you, Satish Praharaj garu.
Sir, namaskar, sir. Vinayji, I'm Satish here. First of all, thanks to Think Guntur for giving me this opportunity for this enlightening session. Otherwise, we would have missed a lot, actually. Thank you, sir. And I have two parts of one question, maybe probably in the opposite directions. The first part of it is, could the social media have been regulated by the way you have said that KYC and all have to be introduced? That is one way of regulating it. Is it not late by this moment across the world that it has not been regulated so far? And the other question, and maybe it is in the opposite direction, but sir, whether this social media is used as a weaponry instead of artillery, they are using this social media. That's what we have learned. But whether India also can use this against an enemy country like Pakistan or China using the social media to pierce into the society of that country with the information what we have to pass on to them. Is it possible?
Yeah, so number one, KYC is not controlling it. KYC is purely to let everybody know that the person who actually is writing is the same person. For example, today it is possible for somebody to impersonate a Satish and write on your behalf. Your family or friends may think that you are writing. Whereas if there is a KYC like we have in telephones or any other more systems, that mimic will stop. Will it completely eradicate impersonation and false accounts to be created? I really don't have an answer, but I think largely, at least deterrent factor can be there. When you see a police check post on the highways, they don't they don't wipe out crimes, but it helps in reducing crime. And two, it helps in creating a deterrent factor in law-abiding citizens like you and me, that we don't do crimes. Else, everybody would, it will be free for all. So if there is a KYC, we can actually say common man, good citizens may not be tempted to do things which are against the society, against the law. A. B. Regulation, I may not be in favor of regulation because we fought freedom in various ways. Some people picked up arm to get the freedom. Some people chose peaceful methodologies to get this thing. The freedom is very, very expensive. And if somebody regulates, our freedom will be compromised. So there has to be freedom of expression. Yes, even in courts have said that liberty of speaking, freedom of expression, freedom of speech has reasonable restrictions. Some kind of restrictions. You cannot go out. And we have seen recently the Prashant Bhushan case which is going on in Supreme Court. We are all wait till the final copy comes out. What are the reasonable restrictions one should have? Because people cannot just come and shoot in air and let the victim defend himself. So that restrictions should not come. Otherwise, we will be like China. We will be like other organizations which probably disturb the communication of citizens. But we should have laws, we should have rules which will penalize the citizen if he chooses to write which are inappropriate words. Like in IPC, there are certain things which regulates. So if you try to harm somebody verbally also, there are provisions which will give you relief and remedies. Same kind of things should be there in the digital space also. And we have seen that kind of discussion is going on, whether they should be there. One part which I'm seeing, where there are two efforts been done by the government, and good you gave me this opportunity to speak, Satishji. One is that personal data protection, where Justice Sri Krishna submitted. Now Meenakshi Lekhi committee is further taking the discussion. And we also saw the non-personal data which Krish Gopal raised. These all discussions are two steps towards securing the space. Now, there will be elements which will create disturbance. IPC was, I don't know the exact year when IPC was formed, Indian Penal Code was formed, but it's more than 100 years. Yet you see criminals here, yet you see people. The Companies Act has been there for so many decades. There are Contract Act has been there, but there are people because to do a crime is a human psychology and human psyche, and people may choose it. What law does is to create a deterrent and also prescribe penalties for the people who break this law. And I think it is time we all as a country should come together and try to create this environment where we create some rules and regulations for the people and who try to disturb our harmony. But Satish, one request to you. I'm assuming my age would be more than your age. So I'm as a younger.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Definitely.
Yeah, we all fought our part, and my family has suffered in emergency. I have seen emergency very closely. I was 1971 born. I was just 5 years, and I seen my family suffering. How the then ruling party, chose to pick up people who were not in cognizance with their political system, and we were not knowing where our people are. So restrictions should be self-imposed. Two, restrictions should be reasonably been defined by. But yes, there has to be in democracy. People should have a right to speak, which is not what they want. In a very sober parliamentary word, they can always oppose you. So I'm in favor of that particular part. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. My next, Narpas Gandhi Prasad. Mr. Gandhi Prasad, please.
Sir, good evening, sir. thanks to Think Gunturu for giving this opportunity. Sir, my question is, social media became a weapon nowadays, mainly Twitter and Facebook. We can express our views very freely in social media. But nowadays what happens, sir, mainly I am observing in Twitter and Facebook, some handles which are belongs to nationalist thoughts and ideas are suspending very frequently and very frequently by Twitter and Facebook. Is the central government planning any correction for this? That means expression of freedom is common for all. Why only some handles are targeting by Twitter and Facebook? Is the central government is going to take any action against for this type of activities? Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, the action to be taken on these handles will be taken only under, or this organization will be only taken under the law, which is current law. Yes, you and I can request government to formulate new policies, because technology changes the way civilization behaves or the way human beings behave. And with advent of technology and this kind of technology which can impact large scale at a very fast speed, laws also have to be dynamic, and they have to be catching it up. So we all can request the government to formulate that. I do not have any information individually, because this information is a prerogative of the minister and few people who are there. So probably, yes, I can put this question to him if I meet him on your behalf, and then leave it to him whether he would like to answer that to me or not. But on the other side, why did Twitter or any other organization do that? So that's the question which we are trying to ask Twitter through that court case and through that this. And the answer is very simple. The greed. East India Company came to India to do business. They were earning their profits, making money. The greed overtook them. And what they did is, in that greed, they took advantage of our simplicity, advantage of our not being together, advantage of our various challenges which were prevalent that time, and they ruled over us. And we saw how we suffered. The GDP of India or the export of India before Britishers came and after Britishers left, both suffered a lot. Our industries got killed, our education system was challenged. But that was different era and different century. And now, if you see, it is 2020. And in 2020, people of India are very much aware. We have people like you, who even may not be part of the ministerial system, but things like one minister. And when people like you are there, we don't have the fear that it will be just. While we may have a couple of dozen of people who may stay in our country, who are officially citizen of this country, but they may not like us. They may have reasons to throw venom on us. They may speak against us. They may plot against us. And we call them as urban naxals. I think, and we have seen, and they may be anybody amongst us also. We may have people who may do that. They may be journalists, they may be academicians, they may be government officers, or they may be Twitter. And I'm telling you this with a lot of authority and a lot of this thing. And I know that social media is something which is not to be killed or cannot be hidden. So it will go when I'm talking here. One of the thing is, Twitter chose to take money from terrorist organization like SFJ. They chose to, and that is their greed. And what we'll have to do is solve this problem by a couple of things. While we make laws, we should excite our next generation to come out with alternative platforms. Why are we so slaved for these foreign platforms? Can't we have nationalist platforms amongst one of us? There may be talented people here. There may be people who may fund it. Yes, maybe you and I were not able to create a platform because of either knowledge or because of capital. But those who are knowledgeable than us, or those who are more resourceful than us, they should come together and have an alternate platform. And that alternate platform should create challenges to these platforms which are challenging our sovereignty. I'll have to thank you all, and Murthyji, if you permit me, 8:30 I have another this thing. So one last question if you all can take, and then I'll be more than happy to come. Murthyji, I have 8:30. There is a meeting. So maybe if you can thank me, or maybe one last question I can take, and then I'd like to take your leave. And if there are more questions, I'll be very happy to come again on this platform, because the questions which have been asked are so exciting.
No problem, sir. No problem. Only one question. Can I tackle that one question?
Yeah, one question, please. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Mr. Subhash. Subhash.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity for the last question. I simply want to know whether we can in some way contribute to the economic growth of the country through social media. How can we contribute? That is my question.
Very nice. And I would like to thank you for this. And it is my luck that I waited for this last question. I'm talking to you with my experience. And if you can all see this. See, as a national co-convener of IT cell of BJP, I had an opportunity to travel across the country. I went to a place called as Jhunjhunu in Rajasthan. And I met a senior farmer. His age may be not less than 70. Senior farmer. He had not gone to any formal education. Never gone to formal education. And he had a farmland. The nearest agricultural officer who sits in the city headquarters of Jhunjhunu was 50 kilometers from that place. This guy was in a place called as Jhajat, and the city headquarters is 50 kilometers, which takes 2 hours to go. His farm was attacked by pest. Now, traditionally, what happens, a farmer takes the leaf and the paste in a plastic, goes to the agriculture officer or goes to the agriculture university, shows them that particular pest and the condition of the fruit or the condition of the tree. And then the learned man prescribes a pesticide. What is the quantum? Then they would say, okay, endosulfan, so many grams in the water, and then you use it. I saw this senior citizen, 70-year-old, taking a mobile phone, clicking the picture of the pest, clicking the picture of this thing, and sending it across on WhatsApp to the agriculture officer. Agriculture officer knew that this uncle, this senior citizen, is not educated. So he also did not write him anything on text. What he did is, he simply took the medicine, clicked it, and then wrote something. This guy did not read this. He simply went to the agricultural shop where they get this, and he showed that guy, this is the message which has come from agriculture officer.
Absolutely.
The person understood it, he wrote it. Then he just called up the person, said, sir, what is the ratio to be used? So the agriculture officer said 1:30. He gave that medicine, that pesticide to this senior citizen and said 1:30. Now he went to his farm, took 1:30 water and started doing the spray. The total time was not more than half an hour. I think otherwise from that Jhajjar to Jhunjhunu headquarters would have taken him not less than 2 hours one side. Then he would have waited for that agriculture officer. Then he could have come back. He would have lost at least one day if the agriculture officer was available. If not available, then he would have lost another day. By the time the pest would have killed his harvest. So social media can be used to connect a family. But at the same time, here I saw a farmer, and I'm deliberately giving you this example. This senior citizen never went to any school. I'm not talking about somebody who is as learned as you and using this kind of thing. Second example I'll give you how it can help for GDP growth. In this COVID situation, we have seen offices and schools. My son is in 10th standard. Else he would have sat at home and there was nothing else to be done. But now the school chose to do something online, and at the same time the school has created WhatsApp group, mathematics WhatsApp group, physics WhatsApp group. Now there are students of different IQ level, different understanding level. One student may not understand what the teacher is speaking rightly. So he goes on the WhatsApp group and tells that I have not understood this particular theorem. Another student comes out and tells him what is the student. See, they have created a virtual society. Third example, which I'll give you, Subhaji, for give, and once again, thank you for giving this opportunity. I'm grandson of a gentleman. My grandfather, they were 5 brothers. In this COVID period, 142 of the grandfather's clan has come together. We 4 generations have come together. Now we know each other, we talk to each other. So you can also make some unity. So, earlier, many of these cousins, I never knew, or they were not able to communicate with me. Everybody was busy or shy. But with this WhatsApp group now, we wish each other, we know what they are doing. And God forbidden, if there is some emergency, we can rush to help each other. And if there is some good thing, we will enjoy that sweetness of this particular part. It is individual who can use a weapon in 2 ways. America chose to drop bomb and finish Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Somebody else chose to use the same atom to cure cancer. It is you who has to decide what will you do with that particular invention, to give solution to the patients of cancer or to finish one city. That is left to you and your morale and your upbringing, sir. So I'd like to thank everybody.
I would add only one thing, sir. Recently, I had been on Twitter. I have seen that Madhubani paintings, they are making masks with Madhubani paintings. One person has connected this Madhubani painter to the Twitter society. So we have ordered from there, where from Bihar. So it can be a source of revenue also.
So it can be used in a various form. I deliberately gave that agriculture example because that was, I think, it will impact 52% of Indians directly. Mr. Murthy and everybody else, my pranams to you all. Bharat Mata ki Jai, and please permit me to leave the.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. In fact, I am a little bit disappointed because I had two questions of my doubts. Of course, not necessarily. I am not insisting you. It's a great pleasure for your giving pleasure time.
I promise you to come again in September. You can collect all the questions and I'll answer. Even if they are uncomfortable questions, I like to answer everything.
No. There are. My question is only what more steps should we take to ensure that social media contribute economic growth? Not necessary to answer it right now, but my objective is how this social media will contribute to the economic growth of a country. That is more important required. We have to see. Kindly, thank you very much. Thank you all the participants. I will be in touch with Goenka ji. I will ask some of my doubts and some participants. I am sorry, the participants, I am helpless to keep your questions because this great person is having other commitment with other. So kindly forgive me for not being able to take your opportunity to ask your questions to this Goenka ji. Thank you very much, Goenka ji, and the participants.
Thank
very
you.
nice
Thank you.
Thank you for arranging this. Very great. Thank you. Very nice of you.